Your Tennessee Titans are the champions of the AFC South. And courtesy of the craziest 2 minutes I have ever seen at the end of a Bengals game, your Tennessee Titans are now the number one seed in the AFC. And all they got to do next week is win, and they have a first round bye. Welcome in Sunday Night Roundtable, Michael, Ryan, Jonathan. The three of us are going to take you home on this glorious damn day of football. Also made a little glorious because I found out 4 minutes before the end of the game that I don't have to drag your Christmas tree out the front door. So we're starting the year off on a good note. How you doing, gentlemen?
I'm doing real well. That's a fantastic finish to the day. I said that the Titans, the baseball equivalent of throwing a perfect game, situations happen to them across the Colts losing, Chiefs losing, and winning in this fashion over the red hot Dolphins. The Titans had no chance against. Get out of here.
So as the Titans literally scored their final touchdown of the game, the Colts lost at the exact same time, which was happy part number one. The Titans had the AFC South wrapped up by halftime of this game. But then we had to, the reason why we're only going live now is because we were all waiting for the Bengals to figure out how to finish that game. And of course, I'm going to start the Titans win off with reaction to the Bengals. That is the craziest 2 minutes I've seen in football. Straight up bailed out on a 4th and goal to be able to walk the clock down to 2 seconds and kick a game-winning field goal, handing them the AFC North and the Tennessee Titans the 1 seed due to the Chiefs losing.
It's a great day. I'm just going to pile on here. And another thing, too, is that obviously I thought Mixon got in on that play at the end, but it was penalties against. I think if they'd reviewed it, it would have been kind of a similar situation. But what a perfect way to end that, to give them a new set of downs so they could just eat the clock with the backup quarterback with Burrow getting hurt. I don't wish injuries on anyone, but of course, we're all in the business of a Titans Super Bowl and the Bengals being a threat that they can be. I don't want Burrow to be hurt for long, but if he can miss a couple playoff games, that'd be great and get them out of the way. Now somehow the Colts can screw this up completely with some other stuff and miss the playoffs altogether. I'll be a very happy boy next week.
Look, whenever you look at what the Titans have done combined with the fact that the Bengals they've been up and down, and we look at it from the perspective of what have the Titans done this year, and ultimately it's been something that has dealt with injuries every single week. The Bengals and Bengals fans have to be on a very similar ride. They have been up and down, and for them it's not injury related, it's just been performance related. They're a young team, and so this is what you actually expect from them. They're at their highs, they are spectacular. At their lows, you're like, Jesus, or should we even be playing professional football? And that is what you saw them is, and that's finally congealing for them and taking on a Chiefs team, which everybody said was back. The Chiefs are back. And look, the Chiefs are absolutely a competitor for the Super Bowl coming out of the AFC. What I did see for a long time was that the Chiefs are so back that they're just going to walk home with the AFC. That's not the case. The AFC for this entire year has been wide open. Just like the Titans right now should be your number 1 seed going into the playoffs. Would anybody be super shocked if the Titans came out next week and lost to the Texans? and that's my point about the entire AFC, is that this entire season has been so wide open about the lack of consistency across the entire thing. The only thing consistent is inconsistency in the AFC right now.
I'll tell you what was consistent today, and Jonathan, I'll take the words out of your mouth and butcher your tweet here. That was just some methodical, slow motion ass kicking today by the Titans. And it was good to see. It was kind of, by the end of it, it turned into one of those fights where it's kind of no longer funny to stand around and watch. You're kind of looking around going, someone should stop this. People are going to get hurt. The Dolphins just, I don't want to say got exposed, because a 7-game win streak is impressive, but they certainly, I forgot who it was on Twitter, said that they turned back into a pumpkin. I mean, the Dolphins just showed up and laid about as close to an egg as you can.
Yeah, and it's all about matchups in the NFL, as always. And this was a game that really played into the Titans' hands if they play a clean game and don't turn the ball over. That's all they had to do, is not turn the ball over. and they win this game. The way that they run it, the way they stay on schedule, the way that the Titans can absolutely and again, I would love to have Derrick Henry, and Jonathan, you pointed this out during the game while we we're watching it. I would love to have Derrick Henry. Do get me wrong. The statement is not saying don't bring Henry back. Henry back is more than icing on the cake at this point in time. But it's not like the Titans can't run the ball in the NFL with how they're currently set up. Foreman's looking good. Hopefully he didn't get too gimped up there at the end of the game. But when they can control the clock, Tannehill doesn't have great numbers, doesn't have anything that just absolutely jumps off the page stellar. But he does what he always does, where he just completes 13 of 18 and throws 2 touchdowns. That's all you're asking for him on a couple play actions. And they just put a stranglehold on this game early, and the Dolphins had no chance. You saw about 4 throws from Tua, and you went, yeah, this ain't their day. Tua is not the guy. And I think that you watch a game like this and you start to wonder, well, Grant, I know there's conditions. You can't make excuses. But Tua was making some decisions on some of these shorter passes where he was bulleting it, like just throwing it as hard as he could at the receivers. I don't know if he grasps the game and he grasps what needs to happen here. And I don't know if he's it for the Dolphins long term. Doesn't matter to me about the Dolphins, but I mean, the Titans really just came in and said, we're going to do what we want, run the ball, throw it when we want to, and you can't stop us. And it was pretty much the whole game, how that went.
And look, I see from Matthew Howard on YouTube here, it's the first solid 4-quarter performance in a long time. I can't disagree with him right there. And that is ultimately, they didn't do anything impressive. When you talk about the big plays downfield, were those explosive plays there where the team, completely had shaded up to stop a Derrick Henry kind of thing and they went over the top on him? Were those plays there? They weren't. This was a game where the team just sat there and said, we're going to do what we do. We're going to take what the defense gives us. We're going to pass protect. We're not going to turn the ball over, despite Dante Foreman's tries to turn the ball over. They said, we're not going to do that. And they ended up winning by 3 scores, 4 scores.
We're saying,
I don't even remember what the final score was. And frankly, it was just a grade A NFL straight down, non-exciting, methodical ass kicking.
We are better than you. You can't stop us. And we're saying that it was just methodical and boring, but they win by 31 points in the NFL. And that speaks to not only just the offense doing what they want, but how good is this damn defense?
So they win by 31 points. And what was the biggest play of the game? You tell me. What was the big play, the explosive play of the entire day?
There wasn't really one. It was more of just kind of, I don't want to say silent because it's not the correct phrase for it, but the Titans defense just swarmed all over the Dolphins and just kept the Titans consistently moving forward in this game. I mean, your touchdown scores were Foreman, Hillard, Swaim, and Ferkser. I'm sorry, I had to sit here and read the stats. I mean, that doesn't sound like a group of guys who's going to secure the AFC South for you, but there you have it. But like you said, methodical ass kicking, the explosive plays was the Titans defense from the moment they set foot on the field till the end of the game.
Well, and that's exactly what I'm saying. When you talk about the best teams that can go on to actually win a Super Bowl, this game, I will say, as somebody that tries to be as unbiased as possible when they watch it, this is the first game where I can say that the Titans are truly a Super Bowl contender.
Yes.
Because from the start to finish, without any explosive plays, there's no gimmicks. They just straight up, from the snap of the football, said, we are better than you. We're not going to go and try and pull any trick plays. And look at the Dolphins. They had multiple trick plays in this entire game. The Titans played sound football, trusting your X and O's, trusting your assignments to go out there and won by 31 points. And when the Titans win by 20 points against the Jaguars a few weeks ago, everybody was sitting there, and this show included, sat there and said, this is a team, it's hard to win by 20 points in the NFL. The NFL is an entire league that is designed for that parity. Everybody's right there at the medium. So to win by 20 is hard. To win by 31 against a team that is coming off a 7-game win streak, the team that is
with their playoff lives on the line,
that has nothing to lose. This is the game that will truly cement, if the Titans are a Super Bowl contender, this is the one that proved it.
I guess maybe the most explosive play was a Hilliard 39-yard rush, but that's when the game was already in doubt. I mean, no longer in doubt, excuse me. And that's, you can't really say it was an exciting play, but it meant nothing for the game. I mean, if they don't score there, they still win by multiple scores. So, but to your point, there's just nothing that really sticks out because it was just an ass kicking, just a methodical, we're better than you, deal with it.
I don't want to discount, I was saying earlier, list off those who scored touchdowns. I don't want to discount their efforts for sure, including Foreman. I mean, 132 yards on 26 carries. You don't just get that by mistake. This is an offense that, despite coming in, we thought that the offensive weapon spearhead was going to be, Henry, Brown, and Julio. Henry obviously has been out for several games. AJ Brown had a great game last week. Really nothing spectacular today. But how do I say that this is a complete team without crediting those who have been injured, right? I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like they're playing like a complete unit. And I really like what you said there, Born, about this feels like a team now that truly can make a Super Bowl run, because they do. It really does not matter who they take the field against or who they take the field with on their roster. This Titans team, with the exception of a couple of games this year, feels like they've been in it for all four quarters, no matter what it is.
It seems like here recently that the team that has the best chance to beat the Titans is the Titans and how they play and with their turnovers and everything. And this is the truth. So if they may be the best team in the NFL when they're playing their game.
Yeah,
honestly, but you see it even in like the games where they've lost. It wasn't the Titans not moving on offense consistently, because they ran for 200 yards plus in a lot of those games, and they had chances to win. It was the turnovers, with the timely turnovers, and given their defense, who's been fantastic this season. And people say, well, if your defense is really that fantastic, how are they giving up 20 plus points to teams like the Steelers and blah blah blah? It's like, yeah, but your offense puts your defense into some bad situations. Sometimes that dam just breaks, and sometimes you give a team you press a team like the Dolphins. That's why I was saying that when that draw play in the middle of the game today, and I get it, 3rd and 21, I can already hear some people saying, why aren't you trying to get the first down? Here's the most important thing. They got 11 yards on the draw. Brett Kern then pins him inside the 5 on the very next punt, forcing the Dolphins, who are mistake prone, at times during this game looked like they were begging to give the ball to the Titans when they were on offense. You're now making that same team drive the length of the field, as opposed to driving 70, 80 yards, as opposed to driving 30 or under yards. More chances for mistakes, more chances for big plays for the Titans defense. And you saw that today in timely spots.
Credit to the Titans for only allowing 1 sack today. That was kind of my biggest fear coming into this, is that Tannehill was going to be running for his life and on the ground for a lot this game. From, if I'm not mistaken, weren't the Dolphins coming into this game as like number 1 in pressures in the league? I don't know if it was sacks, but it seemed like it was definitely pressures, but you can't discount that. The Titans offensive line, when we needed them to, stepped up.
I'm not going to get in the way of the offensive line coach here.
I was going to give you a chance. I just got done speaking, but no, I think that's a testament. Again, we said it a while ago, a credit to the guys that are injured, that are not injured. They're out there putting things together for this team. This was also one of the first games in a while the Titans had their full complement of what they choose to be their offensive line starters. But even in games where those starters have been there, they've had some brain farts, some lack in execution and on things. This was probably one of their more, I hate judging the offensive line before I have a chance to see the all 22 and I can see the end zone view. But just by watching it from the wide and your early assumptions, this is probably one of their best, if not close to perfect games that offensive line unit has put, especially when you consider the rushing yards they were able to put up, the holes they were able to open. There were a couple plays I'd like to go back and see that look like there might have been some slips and some unblocks. Now, nothing was perfect. I think that some of the running backs missed on a cut, on a drop back, those kinds of things. But as a whole, for the offensive line, you've got to hold it out. And people are claiming for Lawan to move over and people to move here and whatever. This is why you don't do this. You give this chance for these starters to stick in there and prove that they can do it, especially against the D-line that had been generating what Lebowski pointed to, and give them a chance to be out there and be solid. You don't rock their confidence by moving people around. You hold what you've got. Now what you do know is that you've got a backup and ratings that you can count on, but you move forward with this group until proven otherwise from this point on.
Matthew Howard with a comment in chat that I like. Miami and San Francisco play the kind of football that can typically beat us, being the Titans. So good to see the Titans handle business against them. It goes to a larger point of that the Titans have faced multiple looks from multiple style teams this year, to where not they have found ways to win, but for instance, with Miami, completely shut them down. And again, that's full credit to this Titans defense getting it done and looking like a complete cohesive unit. I can't say that phrase enough. And I have enjoyed watching this defense more. This might be the most fun I've ever had watching a Titans defense. And I do mean that seriously, coming from a guy who stood in the stands as a teenager and watched the Javon Kirsch years. I really enjoy watching this unit, and I felt like today they only gave up a couple of explosive plays. Other than that, they swarmed all over that ball every chance possible.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably not the first time you said you enjoyed watching this unit, but when
I'll
we
say it
talk
every
about
time.
the Titans, when we talk about the Titans, you're looking back at this defense has actually performed to. The only team that you could actually look back to, you're looking at the 2008, the Albert Hainsworth, just the best year of his entire career, which you could argue was the best career of any three technique that they have ever played, which is Hainsworth. Or you go back to 2000, 2001 kind of thing with those teams in the way they were performing. But ultimately, this is a team we said coming into the season was if this defense can be not necessarily, they don't have to be bad, just don't be all time bad. And this is going to be a great team. It's starting to turn out, and I'm finally coming around on it, that this Titans defense is not only good, but they're one of the better defenses in the league.
I can't help
Watson's like, listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, Watson's not gonna be able to rein this in.
Watson's done. I apologize. I am so sorry. I am so sorry.
I'm 12. I don't know, man.
If you're commenting right now, you got to understand something. If one of us says something that makes Ryan laugh, I'm going to make it my mission for the rest of this broadcast to try to make it break to where you can't even participate. If you're just tuning in, please join us on YouTube so that you can comment. Still can't do anything off Twitter, so definitely jump in, especially if you want to watch us try to ruin Watson for the next 20 minutes of this.
I want to just real quick, because I think I came together for this, speaking about the defensive unit and loving to watch units and everything like that. And even in the plays today, when like Jackrabbit, you can say that he got taken advantage of by Devontae Parker a little bit. But here's the thing. Even on some of those plays, it was just better catches by Devontae Parker. And again, like Jonathan pointed to earlier, this is the NFL. At some point in time, things are going to happen. Things are going to, but he was in perfect position almost every single time when you asked him to be in those coverages. He was fighting for the ball, short of performing pass interference or tackling the man before the ball got there. I don't know what more he could have done. And that's just how how thin the margin of error is for offenses versus the Titans defense right now. They have to make perfect passes and perfect plays to be able to convert and to do things. The Titans rush defense is great. Their pressure is great. That back end is just stifling at certain times throughout the game. I mean, even on the trick plays, how well did the Titans cover those trick plays from the Dolphins when they were trying to do the end around pass?
Yeah,
they threw it back there, and there's three Titans behind the deepest Dolphins receiver. I mean, they're just not being fooled. They're well coached, and that's the thing. I tweeted it out earlier this week. Mike Vrabel, if he's not up for coach of the year, it's a travesty with all he's had to put up with, but he should be up for it anyway, just by how he keeps this team together and what kind of mantra he puts out. I've jokingly called it the grit and grind gang for a while, but they just seemed a way to get things done in moments when they shouldn't. And then get days like this, when they methodically just chew out a win, it's hard not to see the character of Vrabel has on this team.
Comment in chat. So they were definitely essentially it's this. They were holding out Henry for next week, or were they correct to hold out Henry? Let me back up and say this. I don't know that there is anything out there that says that they Henry was available to come back this week and they were holding him out, right? I mean, they still have to designate him to return from IR and all that. But let me say this. Obviously, next week is the last game of the year. If you're going to try to bring Henry in and get him right, or if he's eligible to come back, we'll know in the next couple of days. And I know that there was a tweet out there, I believe by Clay Travis yesterday, saying that Henry's full speed and without a boot. All we know is this, is that is not really some sort of unkept secret behind the scenes with the Titans. We just don't know exactly when he's coming back. But if he's coming back and going to play a week 18, you're going to know in the next few days. So we'll say that. But I lead into this. It's time to start looking ahead for the Titans, right? And I don't want to look too far ahead because I'm with Boren on. I enjoyed the shit out of this today. Everything lined up for the Titans, which almost seems to never happen when it comes to the playoff universe. So it's perfectly set up for the Titans to go and lay a big stinky shit egg against the Texans, and we don't want to see that, right?
Sorry about
that.
Well,
look. If they go into next week and they end up losing it, it's one of those that's a loss that you sit there and say, do you feel bad a little bit? But at the same time, you say, cool, if you lose to the Texans, not once, but twice, do you deserve the number 1 seed? Probably not. So I
Right.
can move on from that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
mean-
no, I agree. Because again, just to lay it out simply, and if you're joining us late, if the Tennessee Titans win next week against the Texans, they have the number 1 seed and a first round bye in the playoffs. There is no other scenario that needs to play out for them. Mathematically, that's how it lays out. So
Yeah, go beat
Win.
one of the worst teams in the
Yeah.
NFL, and
One
you're
of
the
the
number 1
bottom
seed.
fours. Yeah. And here's the thing on Henry, and I said this.
Jesus, I was saying one statement and just completely go over him by both of you. Good Lord. Yeah, you finish, Watts. I'm going to let you finish.
Yeah, I'll just mute your mic.
You can see me. You can see me.
I said this during the game that I think it'll be interesting to see how the Titans handle Henry if he is cleared to go next week with them having that one. Obviously, they win in the 1 seed, so you want to. But again, as we pointed out earlier, the way that Foreman's running the ball, obviously, if Foreman is hurt, that changes some things in my opinion. But if he's healthy, if he's good to go with the 3 running backs you currently have on the roster, I'm leaning towards giving Henry off that week, just working him into practice, designating him to return, let him get up to full speed and reps, let him have that. And then you have that bye week essentially in the first round of the playoffs. If you beat the Texans, I'm in favor of that and have him fresh for that second round. I really like that option better than trying to force him back into a game that I think you can win without him.
Well, and look, I mean, my thing is if you can get away with not playing Henry, that's fine. The question that I kind of came up with over the past month or so, when you look at the performance the Titans have put on the ground, when you look at the yardage, and I'm not a stat sheet scouter, I'm not the offensive line coach, that is my co-host here, Ryan. But whenever you talk about the numbers that they have put up on the ground, whenever I say, I even feel dirty saying it, which is how much better is this team with Derrick Henry in the lineup? And I say that from the sense of, is he better? There are a couple of plays this game that are not 20, 30-yard gains. They are actually touchdowns that he takes to the house. But this is not a team that has really, really struggled to run the football. Even going back to the Patriots game, they ran for almost 200 yards in that game. They just couldn't stop fumbling the football. This is ultimately where the biggest win that I think that Derrick Henry gives this team right now is that he does not put the football on the ground. Fumbles are few and far between when Derrick Henry is running the football. But they have been effective moving the football, even without Derrick Henry.
Right. And that's why I kind of agree with what Ryan is saying here about I'm going to make an assumption here that I know I shouldn't because I have spent 0.0 time as a coach of anything. So how much does it lean into with this organization that they have just now secured the 1 seed as far as the decision of what to do with Henry? And I say that to bolster Ryan's argument of, if you have the chance to go beat possibly the worst team in the league to secure yourself a couple more weeks rest for your star running back who's coming back from a broken foot, I think you take advantage of that. And I think you take advantage of the fact that Derrick Henry is going to be the style of athlete that does not need to come back and quote knock rust off. Look at AJ Brown, right? I mean, AJ Brown stepped right back up and is ready to go. Now, AJ Brown's chest injury compared to a foot injury, yes, apples to hand grenades, but at the same time, I don't think, and I think you need to believe that Henry is not the type of athlete that necessarily needs to knock off rust. I say if you get a chance and an opportunity and it's right there in front of you to give that man one more extra week before you truly have to start clawing through the playoffs, you take it. You absolutely take it.
I think it's more important to me, and not that I think that this is a more important player for the Titans offense or than anything that he's done this season, but just for timing and comfortability with Ryan Tannehill is getting Julio Jones back on that field next week and getting him some more reps, some more live game reps. I think it's more important. So I would much rather have the running backs they currently have and have a full complement of Tannehill's weapons at receiver and have Julio go through those and see if he can start gaining some trust. Because as we saw, not this week, but last week, Tannehill probably should have thrown to Julio instead of AJ. Now, AJ still caught some of those balls, so it doesn't end up mattering. But to me, if you have a chance to allow Henry to keep just getting healthier, that probably have, and if you guarantee me a win, that's definitely where I'd go. Obviously, I think that as Bama Brad puts it, no matter if you activate him, then you can call on him if it's at all possible. But I think the worst case to me, you activate him with the plans of not playing him unless you absolutely need to, and even then, I'd be very cautious.
I mean, ultimately, I think that if you have Henry back and you can get him back, I think you get him back for 5 or 6 carries next week. Nothing that you're pushing him where he is dependent on the win. Because frankly, if you need him next week to beat the Texans, a team
Yeah.
that, if there was ever a team to sit there and say, yeah, we're mailing it until 2022, the regular season 2022, that's the team. You have a all pro quarterback sitting in the wings. No, I mean if he can stay out of the massage parlors, then he is right there. He is a guy that can carry you to the playoffs. So when you're the Texans, I don't feel like they're going to be putting up too much of a fight. That's a team. If there was ever one that was going to say, we're looking towards the offseason, that's the one. And if you're the Titans, do you need the win? Absolutely. Do you come out and completely mail it in? You do not. But at the same time, you sit there and you say, give Derrick Henry 5 to 10 carries if you can. Just get him the feel for the football because
Sure.
then you get a week off. And then you go into that divisional round, and that's where the fun begins.
Yeah. And that's ultimately, and you make a good point. The only part about the Texans that I do worry about is, excuse me, is although I'm 100% in on that, they're mailing it in, they're done, they're looking forward to the offseason. You got to think that they would still love to play spoiler. I mean, how nice to beat a division rival that's consistently beating up on you and deny them the 1 seed. So that's the only part that worries me. But yeah, you get a chance to get Henry in a couple plays, let him get a feel for the ball. Great. But this Titans team is more than well equipped to beat the Texans without Henry, without AJ Brown. So they need to just go out and take care of that
Well,
piece.
and exactly what you just said there, the same sense of if I'm the Titans, I don't necessarily want to play the Colts for no other reason of the simple fact of I do not want to have to beat a team 3 times in a single season. I don't want to, if I'm the Texans, we kind of got our win against the very much better team, Titans, asking to beat them twice. Ugh.
Yeah. And
That's tough.
I've had fans to kind of go down that road a little bit. I've had fans point out to us on Twitter the Titans have done it before. They did it against the Jaguars. I don't know how many of you were actually old enough to remember just how damn good that Jaguars team was. They were absolutely fierce, and the Titans just wanted it more, played better. I wouldn't want to go back and do that again. Absolutely not. You held your breath for all 3 of those Jaguars games for sure. So no, I would not want to a part of the Colts for the 3rd time. Can we just reflect again on how well the football gods just smiled down on the Tennessee Titans today? I certainly just did not expect that to go down the way it did. And I really thought the Bengals were just going to completely bingle it at the end.
Well,
Matthew Howard throws out thoughts on tight end depth now. Weakest position just got weaker today.
we
I don't know where I stand on that. I'll go to you first, Ryan.
we touched on this at the halftime hits that it's not necessarily a huge loss personnel wise because with Michael Pruitt brought, it wasn't like he was a game changer, but what he did bring was versatility. You could use him in a lot of different positions, and the Titans took full advantage because not bringing Jonas Smith back, admittedly, wouldn't want to pay him the money he got, but but what he brought to you and just versatility, and you could line him up anywhere. Michael was kind of that replacement and was doing a fine job at it as well. And I think that he was probably one of the best, if not the best, blocking tight end for the Titans. And that's just because Swaim has the ability, but then he also brain farts and oversteps and lets things slip, although he got absolutely hosed on that holding call today. I don't think that was holding whatsoever on him. So, but that's what you lose. And I don't love it. I think they can get around it because I think that I don't know what the stance is on Carter, him coming back, but Blasting game is still there. They can fill in some of that a little bit. It's not great, but at the same time, I don't think it'll be a detriment with how they're playing and how they utilize, but it's not great. I hate to see it more for the personal story. I was really rooting for Michael, especially the way his season started.
I'm sorry, I completely blanked. I thought Bourne was going to go there, and I'm just
I
more
was
on its head
sneezing.
here.
I apologize. I had a sneeze. I tried to hold it in. I even tried to cut my
I have a
my
question.
camera there, and it was a problem.
I have a question, unless you have something to add to the tight end stuff.
No,
Okay, I have nothing to add to the tight end stuff.
Okay. What is the chances? I know, Lebowski, you're big on playoff predictor and all this kind of stuff. What do we have to root for now? What do we? Because
Win?
no,
I'll handle it. That's fine. I'll take it.
not the Titans, not the Titans. What do we have to root for the Colts to miss the playoffs?
it's almost not possible for them to miss the playoffs.
What
at
has
this
to happen?
point. They have a 9% chance of missing the playoffs. And you would need
there's a chance.
There's a chance. Don't get me wrong, but it is a much bigger chance for them to make the playoffs than it was for the Titans to get the 1 seed today. Let me put that into comparison. I would have to sit here and figure this out, but it would have to start with them losing to the Jaguars and then several other things going terribly wrong.
One can hope, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at.
So let's talk about just where this team goes based off of this win. And I am not, again, I said at the beginning of the show, which was ultimately, I don't get emotionally invested. It's fine. I whatever. This is the most impressive win that I have seen from a team that has played here in Nashville in a long, long time. This is the first time that I will sit here and say that the Titans are absolutely a Super Bowl contender, and I don't even care. Had the Bengals lost to the Chiefs in Cincinnati, I would have sit here and said the same thing. Beating the Dolphins the way they did is much more impressive than any sort of seeding in the AFC South and the AFC. Going into the playoffs, the fact that you are the hot team, when you can start racking those wins together, when you start putting the offense and defense combined, the special teams, if you want to look for those small victories, it's Brett Kern putting multiple punts inside of the 5-yard line.
Yep.
There's your small victories.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something right there, I will sit there and say that the Titans, if you're looking for a team to get hot going into the playoffs, this is a team that every single person in the national media has looked for to say this team just needs to be counted out. They were hot early, then they trailed off. They completely are terrible. They've been overrated the whole time. The fact is, if there's a team that wants to be hot going into the playoffs, a team that's beating a team coming off a 7-game win streak, beating them by 31 points. The Titans are that team that is hot going into the playoffs.
You want to get hot at the right time? Do you want to get healthy at the right time? The Titans are both getting healthy and hot at the right time. And you don't want to be like the Cardinals, who start off hotter than any team in America. And then all of a sudden now they're wondering how to play football. That's not who you want to be at this point in the season. So kudos to the Titans for holding this together. And again, as we've this will be overstating it. I'm sorry. But if the Titans stay on schedule and don't beat themselves, I don't know who beats them.
To answer the question that Bama Brad has thrown out there, what would it take for the Colts to get the 6th seed instead of the 7th? You would essentially have several things happen. The Bills would have to win. The Patriots would have to win. The Titans win actually helps them in that scenario. So they've still got several things that would have to happen. Patriots at Dolphins, Bills at Jets. That's not entirely out of it, but you would have to be Jets and Dolphins fans next week to make a 7 seed happen for the Colts. So let's wrap it up by saying this, because while we were watching the Titans dismantle and start to walk towards this happiness that we're in today, one Antonio Brown decided he has had enough of playing in the NFL. In the middle of a game, I've never seen anything like this, and I can't wait to go back and deep dive into it. I'm not having to pay attention to a Titans game. The middle of the game, Antonio Brown on the sidelines, appearing to be upset about, I don't know, God knows what, being Antonio Brown, just decides that he is done playing in the NFL, strips his uniform off, throws parts of it into the stands, walks across the field as the teams were in play, and went to the locker room. This is, I mean, it was announced after the game, head coach, and I'm blanking on the damn coach's name now, Bruce Arians. Arians said, yes, he's no longer on the team. So there's that. But I just have never seen anything like this. There is the infamous Vince Young throwing his shoulder pads into the stands. However, that occurred at the end of the game, I believe. But this is on tape now. I just don't even know what to say other than I'm going to repeat what I tweeted out earlier today. I will never forgive HBO for locking hours of batshit insane footage off Hard Knocks in their vault and not showing it, probably at the behest of the Raiders, because you know it's out there. This wasn't just simmering and waiting to happen. This is what Antonio Brown is, and he just popped. I want to see the footage. Give us the footage. I'll pay $200 for it.
Look, I think my exact wording was in a fascinating and least predictable sense whatsoever. That was Antonio Brown having a meltdown right there, and the way he just walked out. And I saw the first video I saw was him just walking off in the end zone, but that started on the on the sideline. He just said he was out. I'm done. That's fine. Imagine a guy that sits there and was empowered. And the best part of this is the Bruce Arians power play of saying that I am not the next time that Antonio Brown messes up, I'm off.
Yep.
He is off this team. And the best part is when he faked a vaccine card, they just said, oh, cool. We're just not even going to talk about it. But then this dude just completely walks off the field, starting at the sideline in a slow stroll through the end zone into the locker room whatsoever. So all I will say is congratulations, Tampa Bay. You got your Super Bowl. I hope it was worth it. That's completely fine. But you're a complete fraud in the fact that you sit there and say that, oh, we're above all this because we have Tom Brady and we can bring all of these athletes in here. It's a fraud. I'm sorry. The entire thing's a fraud. And the fact that Antonio Brown was empowered to do what he did, that just yikes. That is the living embodiment of a yikes.
That's a perfect way to put that. Yikes. It just, and kudos, I was thinking, see in the chat here too, kudos for Tomlinson basically to get, and then to know when that crazy train was about to just absolutely come off the rails and say bye to a productive receiver, because it was a bit of a head scratcher a little bit when you weren't privy to all the inside information. The Steelers just to let him walk like that. And then you see a couple years later, oh, okay. Maybe this was what they were seeing. So, and I know that he could have helped the Titans in spots and whatever, but I'm just so glad he ended up being a Tennessee Titan for many reasons. This is just the kind of personality that Vrabel avoids like the plague.
Listen, I tweeted once after people were questioning why did Tomlinson get rid of AB, blah, blah, blah. I joked on Twitter once that the way that meeting went down is that as soon as Antonio Brown left his office and he told him he wasn't coming back with the team, that he had to light a cigarette, sit down at his desk, and put the safety back on in his pistol and put it back in the drawer. I mean, I'm telling you, that's how it went down.
Yeah, just got under the desk and he uncocked it. Just like
I'm going to close with this. Matthew Howard in Twitter with a sarcastic, "Are the Titans going to take a look at AB?" Let me tell you something. You better tweet that out before I do. Because the Golden Tate stands out here are absolutely going to be screaming that from the rafters. We got to go get AB. No, I'm just going to tell you here now, no. Thank you all for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Sunday Night Roundtable. Again, I can't say this enough. Your Tennessee Titans are the number one seed in the NFL. All they're going to do is go fucking win. And the first round bye is theirs.
Language.
Whoa, I'm sorry. This is supposed to be a family-friendly broadcast. I'm treating it like my podcast. Broadway Sports Media, come check us all out. We'd love to have you over there. Thank you for tuning in. Again, if you want to participate in next week's chat, jump on YouTube. Love to see you in there. For Ryan, for Jonathan, and for myself, Michael, have a good night.